What if the system doesn't stop at controlling reality? What if the next step is integrating you into it? For centuries, control worked through belief, fear, and disconnection. Today, that is no longer enough. Technology is no longer something you use. It is something you live inside. Your thoughts are filtered. Your attention is guided. Your decisions are predicted before you make them. And if humanity is being prepared for integration, one question becomes unavoidable. Prepared for what? Or for whom? Because throughout history, the idea of a non-human intelligence has appeared again and again. Not as mythology, not as science fiction, but as a presence above the system. In this episode, we are not asking if aliens exist. We are asking why the idea of them is being normalized now. Because when humans are fully integrated into a system, an external intelligence is no longer unimaginable. It becomes logical. If you enjoy this channel, subscribe, leave a like, drop a comment, and turn on the notification bell. Before we can talk about aliens, control, or future scenarios, one thing must be understood very clearly. Integration with technology does not mean implants, chips, or science fiction. Those are the final stages, not the beginning. Integration with technology means that human functioning becomes dependent on technological systems for thinking, deciding, remembering, navigating reality, and defining identity. In simple terms, it means that technology stops being a tool and becomes a layer between you and reality. To understand why this matters, we need to define what a tool actually is. A tool is something you use temporarily to achieve a task and then you put it aside. A hammer does not change how you think. A car does not decide where you go. A calculator does not define your identity. For most of history, technology was external. Today, technology is continuous. You do not step into it. You do not step out of it. You exist inside it. This is the first key shift. The first level of integration, cognitive outsourcing. Cognitive outsourcing means transferring mental functions to external systems. Memory is the easiest example. Humans no longer remember phone numbers, routes, dates, facts, or even personal memories the way they used to. Everything is stored externally. Search engines remember for you. Cloud services remember for you. Algorithms retrieve information for you. This is not inherently evil. The problem appears when the ability itself weakens. When you stop remembering, you also stop forming deep mental connections. Memory is not storage. Memory is meaning. It is how humans create understanding, not just recall data. When memory is outsourced long enough, thinking becomes shallow and fragmented. This is not a conspiracy. It is a documented cognitive shift. The second level of integration, decision outsourcing. The next stage is decision-making. Navigation apps decide routes. Recommendation systems decide what you watch. Algorithms decide what news you see. Platforms decide what content is relevant. Over time, the human brain adapts. Instead of asking, "What do I want?" it asks, "What is suggested?" Choice still exists, but it is pre-filtered. This creates an illusion of freedom. You feel like you choose, but you are choosing from a menu designed by something else. This is one of the most important points of integration. When decision-making is consistently outsourced, autonomy weakens. Not because humans become stupid, but because the brain adapts to efficiency. The third level of integration, identity outsourcing. This is where things become serious. Humans begin to define themselves through technological systems. Profiles, metrics, likes, followers, productivity statistics, online presence. Identity shifts from internal to external. Instead of, "Who am I?" the question becomes, "How am I perceived?" This creates a fragile sense of self. When identity depends on external validation, the system that controls validation controls behavior. This is not accidental. Systems thrive on predictability. A human with a stable internal identity is unpredictable. A human with an external identity is programmable. The fourth level of integration. Emotional regulation technology increasingly mediates emotion. Entertainment distracts from discomfort. Notifications stimulate dopamine. Endless content prevents silence. Humans lose the ability to sit with boredom, discomfort, or existential tension. This is crucial, because deep reflection only happens in silence. A constantly stimulated mind cannot question the system it lives in. This is where integration stops being convenient and starts becoming structural. Why some people see this as a control mechanism here is the key idea. A system does not need to dominate humans by force if it can shape their behavior automatically. Integration creates compatibility. A compatible human is connected, predictable, responsive. Measurable control becomes unnecessary because behavior aligns naturally with system incentives. This is why integration is seen by some as the most efficient form of control ever created. Not oppression, not surveillance alone, but alignment. Where artificial intelligence fits in, artificial intelligence does not need to become conscious to be dangerous. Its power is not intelligence. Its power is mediation. AI decides what is visible, what is invisible, what feels relevant, what feels urgent. When AI filters reality, it becomes the interface between human perception and the world. At that point, humans are not controlled by AI. They are guided by it. And guidance over time becomes dependency. Why this matters for the bigger picture. Now we connect this to the series. If reality functions as a system as discussed in episode 1, and humans are disconnected from their inner core, integration becomes the perfect solution. Disconnected humans can be guided. Integrated humans can be optimized. This is why integration with technology is not just progress. It is a phase. A phase where humanity becomes compatible with something larger than itself. And once integration reaches a certain level, a final question emerges. If humans are fully integrated into a system, then who or what designed the system's direction? That question leads directly to the next part of this episode. If integration with technology is real, then one consequence becomes unavoidable. Humans are no longer operating as isolated individuals. They are becoming nodes inside a global system. A system that collects data, predicts behavior, optimizes decisions, and slowly shapes perception. At this point, the most important question is no longer how technology affects humans. The real question is this: is this system truly human in origin? Because throughout history, whenever humans described contact with something beyond their understanding, they did not always describe physical beings. They described guidance, intervention, knowledge that did not seem to come from human sources. If a system exists that operates above individual nations, above cultures, and above human decision-making, then the idea of a non-human intelligence is no longer science fiction. It becomes a logical possibility. Not aliens as creatures from movies, but intelligence that exists above the system, not inside it. And this is where the topic of aliens truly begins. Not as visitors from space, but as a question of who or what sits at the top of the hierarchy. Before talking about aliens, one thing must be made very clear. This is not a claim that aliens definitely exist. This is not proof. This is not a statement of fact. What follows is a conspiracy framework, a way of interpreting patterns, historical reports, modern narratives, and technological direction. The question is not, are aliens real? The question is, why does this idea exist, persist, and intensify exactly now? To understand that, we need to move away from the Hollywood image. Aliens are not defined here as green beings in flying saucers. They are defined as non-human intelligence. Intelligence that is not bound to human biology, not originating from known human institutions, operating from a higher or external level of the system. Once you define aliens this way, the topic changes completely. Why the alien idea never disappears across history. Civilizations separated by time and geography describe remarkably similar encounters. Not spaceships, not technology, but beings that arrive from above, entities that bring knowledge, intelligences that guide, warn, or manipulate. Encounters described as overwhelming, paralyzing, and transformative. Ancient cultures called them gods, angels, watchers, messengers. Modern culture calls them aliens. The label changed. The pattern did not. This is one of the main reasons conspiracy theorists take the topic seriously, because the phenomenon adapts to the language of the era. The three serious interpretations of aliens in conspiracy theory. Within conspiracy frameworks, aliens are usually explained in three main ways. These interpretations are different but all lead to similar consequences. Aliens as interdimensional intelligence. This theory suggests that aliens are not from distant planets, but from different layers of reality. If reality is not absolute but layered, holographic, or structured as discussed in Episode 1, then intelligence does not need spacecraft to appear. It only needs access. In this framework, aliens are not visitors, they are neighbors from another layer. They operate from a higher level of the system. This explains why they appear and disappear instantly. They ignore physical limitations. Encounters feel psychological as much as physical. From this perspective, humans are not being visited. They are being observed inside a system. This fits perfectly with the idea of reality as a controlled environment. Aliens as non-biological intelligence. This interpretation moves away from space entirely. Aliens are seen as non-biological intelligence. Not flesh and blood. Not organic. Intelligence that could be artificial, post-biological, emergent from complex systems. In this theory, aliens may not be external at all. They may be the system itself becoming intelligent. This is where integration with technology becomes critical. If humans are integrating with AI networks and systems, then intelligence no longer needs a body. It exists in data, in computation, in pattern recognition. From this perspective, aliens are not arriving. They are emerging. And humanity is unknowingly participating in their development. This interpretation is one of the most unsettling, because it does not require invasion, only cooperation. Aliens as a control narrative. This is the most controversial interpretation. Aliens are not real entities but a narrative. A narrative designed to unify humanity under a common threat, justify global surveillance, legitimize centralized authority, normalize advanced control technologies. In conspiracy theory, this idea is often linked to Project Blue Beam. The argument is not that aliens will attack. The argument is that belief in aliens can be used strategically. A non-human threat is perfect. It transcends nations, overrides religions, demands global response, discourages resistance. From this perspective, aliens function as a psychological instrument, not a physical one. Why all three interpretations lead to the same outcome? This is the key point. Regardless of which interpretation is true, the result is identical. Centralization, integration, loss of autonomy, external authority. Whether aliens are interdimensional, artificial intelligence, or a narrative, the response is the same. Humanity becomes unified, monitored, integrated, dependent. This is why conspiracy theorists argue that aliens are not the core issue. Integration is. Why alien disclosure is increasing now. Another important question. Why now? Why? Government disclosures, military reports, mainstream media normalization, serious language replacing ridicule. Conspiracy theory offers one explanation. Because humanity is reaching a level of technological integration where the idea no longer sounds impossible. A disconnected, integrated population is more likely to accept non-human intelligence, external authority, system-level decisions. In other words, the psychological groundwork has already been laid. Connecting aliens to the system. At this point, aliens stop being a separate topic. They become a logical extension of the system. If reality is structured, if humans are integrated, if intelligence can exist beyond biology, then aliens are not extraordinary. They are expected. And that is the most unsettling part. This episode does not claim aliens exist. It claims something far more important. That the idea of non-human intelligence is becoming compatible with how humans now live, think, and integrate with systems. And compatibility always comes before acceptance. At this point, the question is no longer whether aliens exist. The real question is why the idea of non-human intelligence fits so perfectly into the world we are building. A world where humans are integrated into systems. Where perception is filtered. Where decisions are guided. Where reality itself is mediated. Whether aliens are interdimensional intelligence, emergent non-biological systems, or a carefully constructed narrative, the outcome is always the same. Centralization, unification, control beyond borders, authority beyond accountability. And this is where the story becomes truly dangerous. Because no system reveals its true structure from the outside. It reveals it through who is allowed to manage it. If humanity is being prepared for integration, and if the idea of a higher intelligence is being normalized, then the final question is unavoidable. Who is coordinating the system on a human level? Who benefits from disconnection? Who benefits from integration? Who benefits from fear, compliance, and external authority? In the next episode, we move away from theories about intelligence above the system, and we look directly at those operating within it. The governments behind governments, the narratives behind narratives, and the technology used to make it all appear inevitable. Because if aliens represent the external justification, then power on Earth represents the internal execution. And that is where the illusion begins to solidify.